right, and now I'd officially like to welcome you to our rapid fire quarterly update, where each of our practices bring you the most important things to know with Microsoft technologies. What's happened, what's happening now, and what's coming next. So get ready because there's going to be a lot of information here over the next hour as Microsoft has made a ton of announcements since we last met in May. So here's a little more information about JourneyTEAM. We've been around since 1993, so it's officially our 30th anniversary. As a certified Microsoft partner, we are always growing to offer better solutions to our clients. We have received a combined 10 solutions partner designations and advanced specializations across the Microsoft stack. And that's replacing the gold and silver competencies that they were going over previously, but they mean the same thing. And here are some of the awards and recognition that JourneyTEAM has received over the years, including Microsoft Inner Circle. We got that in 2021-22, and we were just recently notified that we also got it this year. Only the top 1% of Microsoft partners achieved that, and so we're pretty proud of it. And this is where JourneyTEAM can most help you across the Microsoft stack. You'll notice that's the full stack, which is proven by our solution partner designations we showed off earlier. And then here are our presenters. I'm your host, Jay Drake. I'm marketing director here at JourneyTEAM. And with me, we have a bunch of our practices with us to share their expertise. Starting us off will be Josh and Connor with our business intelligence team, followed by Brandon Gorton with our CRM team. Then we'll have Eric Roth with our modern work and security team. Then Dan Brown with our finance and supply chain team. And then wrapping us up will be Jesse Olson. And just so you're aware, here's our agenda. You can see we're going to be covering Microsoft Fabric, Dynamics 365, Microsoft 365, Entra ID, Azure Data and AI, Microsoft Tax Simulation, Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, and Continia Expense Management with Business Central. So with that in mind, I'm going to hand things off to Connor and Josh to tell us more about Microsoft Fabric.
Thank you very much, Shay. So today we're going to introduce you to Microsoft Fabric. If you haven't been introduced to it yet, it is a really exciting new product that Microsoft is releasing that is the next evolution and perhaps revolution of the Microsoft data stack and maybe the data world itself. But before we dive into exactly what Microsoft Fabric is, I want to look at some of the pain points that a lot of us experience when working in data. One is I've got my data sources scattered all over the place. Maybe in your organization, you have your HR data stored on an on-premises database. I've got my sales data in the cloud. I have some other data being stored in JSON documents inside of a data lake, some different things like that, right? It tends to be that data gets scattered all over the place. And as part of that, it tends that most organizations have lots of different data tools too. I've got this particular tool to access the data. I've got this particular tool to do the transformations, and I have this tool to visualize, or maybe several tools to do a visualization. And what kind of comes with that is complicated licensing and cost structures, right? One of those may not be complicated, but as I'm managing all these different tools, as I'm managing all these different storage tools, whatever it might be, it's hard to keep track of my costs.
Just like Josh mentioned, because your data is scattered all over the place, it can be really hard to govern it. You don't know who has access to what data set, or some people might have access to things they shouldn't be able to see. So from a security standpoint, it's also very tricky when data, again, is scattered all across the organization. And not only that, but when data is scattered, it's really difficult for teams within your organization to be able to collaborate. It's hard for one piece of data to live within one team, but then another team needs to use it as well, and making sure that that data is up to date and really can really be a headache for a lot of organizations.
Then Microsoft Fabric swoops in and saves the day. This is the all-in-one data tool is one way to think of it, where, as you can see here, each of these icons along the top represent different data tools that are currently scattered across the Microsoft data stack. We've got Data Factory, we've got Synapse tools, Power BI, and a new tool called Data Activator. The idea here is that all of the tools are being brought into one place, so no longer do I have to navigate to these different places in order to access each of these pieces of my data journey.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's combining a new feature that they're calling One Lake. You can think of One Lake as like a OneDrive, a really great repository or a central place where you can store your data. So not only are CSVs or JSON files or unstructured data living within your One Lake, but you can store your data warehouses within this One Lake. Really just a central place for all of these tools that Josh just talked about to query your data and drive insights. And this really helps, again, from the governance standpoint. We know everything is being stored in one lake, a central unified experience that will really drive value for your business or your organization.
This is the UI of Power BI and Microsoft Fabric because they're one and the same now. So Microsoft Fabric is going to leverage the Power BI UI and UX. As you can see here, you can access all of your data assets from files, JSON files, CSV files, whatever type of file you're dealing with, to structured data that you have in your database or in your lakehouse. Anything like that is all accessible in this one place.
And what's really nice as well is that because they're taking the great user experience from Power BI, they're also taking some of the back-end pieces of Data Factory and Synapse and bringing it to this UI as well. So you're able to write SQL or Python directly within the Fabric tool, which you would have previously had to go to a different tool to do. And again, just trying to bring everything under one roof, under one unified area, so that different people from your organization can easily collaborate together. Again, just trying to make sure everything is unified to drive business value. And it's important to note that Fabric is currently under public preview, which means that Microsoft is still making changes and additions, releases to this product, and it's not currently generally accepted. But that doesn't have to limit you or your organization.
You may be asking yourself, since it's in public preview, what can we actually do to get started with this? We suggest three things that we'd be happy to help you with, or you could obviously do on your own. But one is you can, even though it's in preview, start building your data assets within Microsoft Fabric. It is something you can get licensed now and start building within. Just know that it is in preview, so there are some risks that come with that. Another option is to start building your data assets outside of Fabric with a plan to migrate them into Fabric down the line. Another option is just to create a migration plan for your current assets. Again, this is something we'd love to help you with, but it's something you can start today on your own time. Start diving into it. Obviously, you'll need to get to know Microsoft Fabric and the nuances of it in order to accomplish any one of these three approaches, but it's going to be well worth your time. This is very much the plan for where the Microsoft data stack is going, and it's going to be an exciting future.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. And now we'll turn the time over to Brandon Gorton from CRM.
Good morning, or I guess it might be good afternoon for some. So today I'm going to be covering the new SMS texting control that's available inside of the Sales Hub, inside of Dynamics CRM, as well as some of the email engagement feature sets and kind of how you can use those to your advantage. So first of all, when it comes to the native SMS texting control, many of us have been asking for this for a long time, and it is now finally available. I think it got released about a month ago in preview. And what it allows you to be able to do is you can do outbound text messages. So even if you had omni-channel, you would not be able to do outbound text messages to start a conversation with an end user. So this gives you the ability to be able to do that. The other, as far as notable aspects of this, is that you can set up multiple providers at the same time. So when I show you a demo here in just a minute or two, you can see that I have Telesign and Twilio set up at the same time. So these are the providers that are available out of the box right now. I'm sure this list will expand over time. So I think that's kind of cool. So if you have multiple providers, you can still use them. And then the other thing that is interesting with the SMS texting control is you can have a series of personal and individual phone numbers, as well as team phone numbers for departments and or teams. And then they can have the opportunity to switch between which phone number that they want to be using when it comes to texting that customer or client. When it comes to email correspondence, so it's been a feature in CRM for a long time. So I think it's kind of often overlooked, and it's kind of gone through a facelift more or less recently. So you can do read receipts open receipts. You can identify who's opening your attachments and also who's replying to your email messages, and it will keep account of these details. So who can use this feature? So Sales Enterprise Sales Premium licenses get access to email correspondence. It is available inside of the Sales Hub application. You can get to those settings by going to the Sales Insights area. And what it allows you to be able to do is kind of do automated assistant notifications, as well as it is updating an actual table in the back end that you can then interact with and use Power Automate to do additional notifications and or task creation. So that's pretty cool. And what this looks like, let me go over here and I'm going to start the demo. So first of all, I'm going to be showing the SMS Texting Control. So you can see that I'm going to click on the little message bubble icon, and then on the right, it's going to pop up with that SMS control. And after it loads, you'll see that there's my existing conversation with this customer. So it supports emojis, it supports rich text, or not rich text, but emojis that you can also put images in there. So again, I'm just opening it again. So it shows up kind of where your team's collaboration features are. And then at the bottom, you can see that I'm using a telesign phone number there, and it's giving me the Teams icon. I also have the opportunity where I got 2 phone numbers associated to me, so I can change it to my Twilio number as well. And that's an individual phone number. So I have the option to, on the fly, I can change which phone number I'm using and how it's being associated. So again, that's pretty cool because some, depending on the scenario, some might be interested in having their own personal phone number, some might be using a team phone number. Now in the middle of the screen, you can see that I have in the timeline control, I'm getting read receipts. So it says I just sent that email now, and then I can also see that it was just open now. So if you enable email correspondence and email engagement, you will get those read receipts and those notifications directly within the timeline control of your records inside a dynamic CRM. What this looks like when you open the record is I will get a little widget here on the bottom right corner where I can see the recent activity associated to this email. So I can see the number of opens that I have. I can see the number of attachment views, as well as link clicks and replies, as well as a little timeline as far as how is the recipient of this email interacting with this information. So this is pretty powerful. A lot of times people kind of overlook that this is an available option, and we get asked for this, and it is out of the box. And then as far as how you want to interact with this data, you can use the assistant to set up reminders as far as how the individuals are interacting with your data, to give you promptings to follow up and do certain things, as well as anything that you can do with Power Automate is available to you here, because it is just literally updating a table in the back end called follow up. So all the same capabilities that we're all used to as far as the flexibility of Dynamics and the Power Platform. As far as offers, there's been a lot of talk, and I know we did a webinar on Copilot a little bit a few weeks ago, as well as AI and kind of the AI capabilities inside of the Dynamic CRM Power Platform stack. So again, if you have any interest in rolling out Sales Copilot with your Outlook integration tied to your CRM database as far as data enrichment and AI generative content, please reach out to us. We have an offer on AppSource, and we are happy to connect all these dots for you. Now on to Eric Ruff.
Fantastic. Well, it's good to be with everyone. We've got a lot of content to cover. I'm going to cover Microsoft 365 and some identity components known as Entra ID. I'll talk about that. So jumping into here, we've got Microsoft 365 Copilot is coming, a little different Copilot than what Brandon just talked about. If you want to just go turn that on, you'll be in for a surprise. If you remember the days past when Microsoft introduced the new search engine to SharePoint and everyone freaked out because they could see all kinds of content, that's what's going to happen, I predict, with Copilot when you turn that on, if you're not set up and prepared for it. So you definitely want to prepare your environment and understand what permissions and what content is accessible to users before you deploy this new Copilot solution. So we can help you with that. Do an assessment and see how ready you are for that. If you're using SMTP Relay through Exchange Online, there are changes coming that could affect you. There's a whole blog posted on this. It's really confusing. The long and short of it is that little point I have there. Look at your SMTP headers. If the return path value contains a domain that you don't own, but the from or the sender does, this will affect you. Okay, so that's what you need to double check there and start updating that. Microsoft's investing a significant bit more data into Mac OS management. I'm super excited for the ability to do desktop login to the Mac. That's coming. It's not there today, but looking forward to that, and I'll give you updates as that comes along. And Windows 365, we've seen lots of uptick in adoption of that service, and there's a new SKU for Windows 365 called the Windows 365 Frontline Service. You no longer license that by the user. And so you can apply that license to the tenant, and it allows people to kind of share, 3 users can share 1 license, if you will. So if you have shift workers that need a persistent Windows 365 VM in the cloud, you're not paying for that user to use it for X hours a day, and then it sits there idle for the rest of the time. The other people in the shift can use that. And video creation and editing. This is a net new service coming into the work or school ecosystem. It's been on the consumer side for a while now. They call it Clipchamp. We'll talk about renames in the future. I'm going to predict that one gets renamed someday. But Clipchamp is coming, and so you'll get a video editing solution natively as part of Windows 365. So be aware of that coming up. On to Entra ID. The big news here, if you haven't heard about this, is renames and more renames. I won't spend a lot of time on these, but just know if you hear the word Entra ID, think Azure Active Directory, and anything in the Entra product of families is around the identity and access management ecosystem of Microsoft's world. Okay. B2B guest sponsors attribute. Been waiting for this one for a long time. This is super helpful. When you invite a guest into your tenant, you can define who the sponsor for that user is, and that user as the sponsor can be flagged in access reviews and validating that the guest account still needs to be in the environment. So super helpful. You can have multiple sponsors on a guest. Really nice new feature there. You need to do that guest invite through the Azure AD portal to get your hands on that sponsor attribute, or if you've got a automated way to do it, you can hook into that attribute. Another really big announcement, lifecycle workflows are here. They're generally available. I grabbed a screenshot of the common tasks that you can do here. The key thing to understand about these are not building a new identity in your environment. Once the identity shows up, then you can have these workflows automatically trigger. They can run on X time after the employee hire date comes to pass, and you can automate tasks for someone joining or leaving or changing organizations or roles inside the company. And one of the really neat things here is you can call out to a custom Azure Logic app to do whatever you want if there's not a pre-built function or pre-built workflow that is supported there. Entra ID, there's a neat new groups experience. So your users may be seeing this depending on how your tenant's configured. You may or may not see the ability to create groups here, but there's a nice new interface for managing the groups that you own or the groups that you're in, for requesting to join specific groups. So that's available at mygroups.microsoft.com. Neat feature there. And then for all those administrators that have mistakenly granted administrative consent to an enterprise app for the entire tenant and didn't want to do that, there's a really nice way that you can just go through the GUI and revoke that admin consent. So that's now available on the permissions tab of the enterprise apps. So be aware of that. 2 big announcements. Well, there's several new SKUs that Microsoft's coming out with. So I listed them all here. Entra ID governance, these are the retail prices. And this is all part of that Entra family of services. This is above and beyond Azure AD Premium or Azure AD Premium Plan 2. There's a governance models here. There's permission management. There's identities for workload identities. These are your non-human accounts. And then Entra Verified ID. That's free right now. There's a whole bunch to unpack with that one. So be aware of those new product SKUs. And then 2 major big announcements. These are game changers in my opinion. Microsoft Entra ID Internet Access is the concept of a secure web gateway. So your devices, as they browse things on the internet, you can manage and control that. And you can even prevent users from accessing content in another M365 tenant. It's integrated with Azure AD's conditional access policies. and you can see the original source IP or where that user is really coming from versus natting and stuff like that. So that's a big deal. And in my opinion, a bigger deal is the Entra ID private access. This is Microsoft now getting involved in the Zero Trust network access ecosystem. The ability to access anything inside your on-prem network or in your Azure VNets from a private endpoint standpoint. You don't have to use the public endpoints. It works with any protocol, FAT clients, web clients, RDP, SMB, FTP, SMTP, etc. I've got a little video that's going there that shows you trying to access a UNC SMB file share, and Entra private access kicks in, does modern authentication, checks into conditional access, and gets you a per app tunnel, if you will, to access that file share. That can be an Azure Files resource. It could be a traditional file share. Hence, any app, any protocol. It's a really, really big deal. And it's a game changer because of its integration to the identity platform. Okay, so that's a super important. We offer several assessments that we do in the modern work and security practice. Of course, identity and access management, an Intune assessment, Exchange Online assessment, and see where you're at with that, and then our full tenant health check. So if you want any support or help with any of that, please reach out to us and we would love to help you. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Nate in our IT department, and he's going to give you some real world practical information for doing a little mini assessment inside your org to test how well your users handle phishing emails. Go ahead, Nate.
All right. Thank you, Eric. There's a lot of exciting features there. Today, I'm excited to discuss the Microsoft Attack Simulator. So as we all know, cybersecurity is a real concern in today's digital world. One of the most common type of attacks are phishing attacks. For those of you who don't know, a phishing email is a deceptive message received by email, often from someone posing as a trusted source, such as a friend, coworker, or client. These emails themselves are very convincing and often trick users into revealing sensitive information through links or through attachments. Presented here are a few stats regarding phishing estimates from the last few years. 1.2% of all emails are malicious. 88% of organizations face spear phishing, which is targeted phishing. Breaches caused by stolen credentials have an average cost of $4.3 million. 36% of data breaches in 2022 were caused by phishing. 70% of all phishing emails are opened, and only 26% of organizations have a response plan for phishing incidents. Unfortunately, there is no easy way to prevent these from flooding inboxes other than attempting increased email security and, most importantly, employee awareness training. And luckily, that's where the Microsoft Attack Simulation training comes into play. It's an out-of-the-box tool that allows you to custom create internal phishing attacks to help train your employees to be vigilant against malicious senders. The simulator itself is quite easy to use. It allows you to create a phishing email to employees in your organization to test their ability to recognize and report phishing attempts. The emails themselves are designed to mimic real phishing threats, but of course are completely safe with no actual risk to the recipient or the organization. In sending these simulated attacks, you can gather an idea of who in your company may need security training and highlight areas of vulnerability within your company. Doing these regularly increases employees' ability to identify actual phishing attempts and therefore increases your cybersecurity posture overall. The simulator itself can be found by navigating to the Microsoft 365 Defender portal at security.microsoft.com and is located under the email and collaboration section on the left menu. It should be noted that to access Defender or the attack simulator, you must have global admin role and a license that gives you access. Let's do a quick walkthrough to show you how the simulator works. To initiate a new phishing simulation, go to the attack simulation training page and select the Launch a Simulation button. This pulls up a window that walks you through your customized attack. There are a variety of techniques you could use, from credential harvest to malware attachments and links. These are, of course, false and only simulate what an actual attacker can do. For now, let's select credential harvest as it's the most common technique used. Select Next. The simulation wizard will require a name for your simulation as well as a description as shown here. From here, you have two options for your attack simulation. The first option is that you can create your own payload and customize it to your employees. This does take a bit of playing around, so I'll leave that for you to attempt on your own. The other option is to select a pre-made payload, which we will use for this training. As you can see, many of these pre-made payloads mimic Microsoft emails, which is oftentimes what malicious users will do that target your company. We have seen over the last few months emails mimicking Microsoft, DocuSign, Adobe, and so on, appearing very close to the real thing. In this payload, there is a bit of scripting applied here that will insert the receiving user's email address so it appears personalized. And if you scroll down, you can see the subject, theme, the sender, as well as predicted compromise rate. Most of these can be customized when creating your own payload. After selecting the payload you want to use, hit next. And at this point, the simulation wizard will require you to select users you'd like to target. You can include all users in your organization or break it down by team or department or individual users if needed. That's very helpful and useful if you have users who have failed these simulations in the past, and you can walk through it with them again. If you select all users, you will be given an option to exclude certain users, such as higher level executives. Though this may at times be needed, remember that even CEOs can fall prey to phishing emails. This is known as whale phishing and can cost a pretty penny. Now that we have our targeted users situated, the simulation wizard will allow you the option to assign training to users that fail the simulation and click on the malicious links in your emails. There are a couple options here allowing you to customize how you would like training to occur. The next step is to pick a landing page, which is the page the end user sees upon failing the simulation once they click on the malicious links in the email. Microsoft has a variety of these available, and you can even customize your own, each personalized with the target's name that assigns a training course. After selecting notification options, you can configure your simulation's launch and end dates, as well as test your phishing email. From here, it will have you review and start your simulation. Once finished, the email will be sent to those users you have chosen, and they will have the opportunity to unknowingly test their cybersecurity vigilance for the amount of time that you have chosen for the email to be active. And finally, once your simulation is launched and completed, you can come back and review your simulation results in real time. This includes how many users were compromised, how many users reported the email, and any other activity. You can even drill down under users and see which users were compromised and assign training, as well as how far they failed the simulation. As you can see, the attack simulator has the capability to improve your security posture and identify vulnerabilities within your company. Through data received from the simulation, you can train employees and help patch up those weaknesses, protecting your resources from the real malicious attackers. Our modern work and security team has been a hero to many of our clients and helped craft and send these simulations out on a regular basis, protecting them from falling prey to phishing attempts. The average cost of the data breach is now over $4 million. Don't let your company be the next victim. Contact us today to learn more about how Microsoft Attack Simulator can help you stay safe. And with that, I'd like to pass the presentation over to Dan Brown on the finance and supply chain team.
Thanks, Nate. Good information. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about finance and supply chain, and specifically or intelligent order management. We've been anticipating this public release for quite a while. Pretty excited about it. It's bringing together three technologies from Microsoft: AI, Microsoft Dynamics Copilot, and the Supply Chain Center. Many people have seen the Supply Chain Center, and the inclusion of AI and Microsoft Copilot really brings this offering to fruition. AI has been around in the supply chain space for a lot of years. Started as early as 1986 with some applications for the Air Force around inventory management. It's grown as computer power has increased and hardware costs have decreased. We see examples of that, like with Netflix recommendations engine. Copilot is the world's first AI copilot, and we've heard a lot about that today. And it's the first application for ERP and CRM applications. This Copilot application enables users to leverage unified data from AI applications. Again, we saw a good example of that from Brandon earlier, and we see similar leveraged capabilities in the finance and supply chain application. It also provides custom and contextual replies and insights to customers and suppliers, just like we saw earlier. Supply Chain Center brings together that more mature dashboard need and control room that supply chains are looking for today. It's consolidating various supply chain data points into a single user experience that also leverages multiple feeds from such situations around the world or around the country, such as news, weather, and other types of ERP applications that can be connected to it. It can also provide and usually does provide predictive insights into the affected supply chains or associated orders. This is very powerful, and we'll look at an example of that a little later. It lets us view and understand interruptions or other things that can impact such things such as materials, carriers, distribution networks, outside order processing, vendors, and other things that can impact our supply chain or manufacturing operations. By leveraging AI, the AI-generated information and Copilot, it allows supply chain managers and order management teams to respond in a more meaningful way to the orders and to changes that may have to take place around those orders. The AI-generated content is drafted by Copilot in an email form and then can be previewed before being sent on for communication purposes. And lastly, it allows for more efficient mitigation to supply chain disruptions by understanding those forces that can impact a supply chain. The three technologies together provide a much more intelligent order management across the supply chain with improved flexibility, transparency, and on-time delivery capabilities. So now watch a brief demo of this work.
So we're going to go into a quick preview of both the Supply Chain Center and Intelligent Order Management. Here we're starting on our Supply Chain Center. So from the home page, what we're going to do is we're going to jump down to Supply and Demand Insights. The big thing about the Supply Chain Center and Intelligent Order Management is in its architecture, because you can link several different order channels together. For example, like commerce, your e-commerce platform and your ERP would be two examples of that. Okay, so as we get in here, for example, if you click on Supply Manager, you're going to see a lot of different BI reports, and you're going to see BI throughout Supply Chain Center and also Intelligent Order Management. So here you can see some examples of supply coverage, projected inventory, orders that are on time, just as a few examples. Okay. Another feature that's really valuable in the Supply Chain Center is the AI functionality that's in there. So if we jump over to the news feed, you can set up it connects to different news feeds, and AI will begin to deliver you different news on as far as your supply chain and things pertinent to your business and things that might be at risk. You can then communicate with your suppliers and address anything that might be an issue there. Let's jump over to now into Intelligent Order Management. So with Intelligent Order Management, here from our home screen, we can go into different dashboards. Let's go into the order dashboard, just as an example. And here you can see, again, more BI orders that might be late, orders that are shipped out, volume. Let's just click through the top tabs there on the top, just to show some examples here. So just a big thing with BI here is just visual reporting for your users so that they can pull out data or focus on things that might be concerning, as far as supply and demand, or be able to pull out data that might take them a long time to be able to find. There's another feature here. If you look on the left-hand part of your screen, you're going to see a lot of, as far as fulfillment. Let's just click on sales orders as an example. But you have a list of all your orders here. And here users can get in, they look at customer fulfillment. They can see the status of their orders. We can also drill into any sales orders or purchase orders as well to see the details and what's happening with them. So I think some of the big wins with Supply Chain Center and Intelligent Order Management are going to be the architecture, being able to pull information across various different platforms, and the visuals, the reporting for users to be able to quickly get at data they need, and also the AI aspects, which is more and more turning into something that's going to revolutionize our industry. So we can get into all of this with you. We'd be happy to meet with you and go through additional demos and be able to help your business with be more successful. So,
alrighty. Let us know how we can help you with intelligent order management. I'm going to hand it over to Jesse now, and he'll talk us through some solutions.
Hello, everybody. So today I'm going to spend a little bit of time. I am a software consultant on our small and medium business practice. We do a lot with Business Central. And so I'm going to be talking through two of our popular extensions that we use through an ISV of Continia. And so we'll kind of dive into that. They've got a expense management tool, which I'll talk about first, and then an AP automation tool. So just a couple of the highlights, why use expense management? We want to automate the processes. We want to give the users ability to submit expenses on the go, approve anywhere. We can send receipt reminders. So if users are not getting their stuff done on time, controlling your costs is another big asset of this to create travel budgets. You get, a real-time overview of what's out there, what's sitting there waiting for processing. And the biggest thing about Continia is it is one of the most heavily integrated solutions for expense management for Business Central. So it is going to add pages, screens, menus, everything directly into Business Central, so your users don't have to, navigate to another solution to process from the accounting side. Major benefits, we're going to benefit the expense user to making it quick, easy. They've got a mobile app that you can just take a picture of the receipt on your phone and it will do an OCR and read the receipt. Your approvers, it's going to give them real-time access to do approvals. You can reject things. You can actually delegate things if you want someone else to be involved in the approval process. And then on the back end, the bookkeeper gets full visibility. You can see everything that's sitting out there, different phases, what's waiting for approval. So you're getting full visibility across the board. Kind of the architecture on the expense management. The expense users do not have to be a Business Central user. They can either submit expenses through the mobile app, or there's also a web-based portal that they can log into. That data is going to flow expenses and mileage over to Business Central. And then we can also send out reminders from Business Central back over to the expense user. We can also do a corporate credit card sync. And so if we want to be able to integrate, from an American Express corporate credit card, we can push that data directly from the corporate credit card provider into the user's Continia account. Approvals, whoever is doing approvals of expense management does have to at least have a Business Central license. These are the cheapest license you can have for Business Central. They're $8 per user per month. But anyone that's just an expense user that's not doing approvals, there is no type of licensing that needs to be purchased. So here's just a quick look at kind of the mobile app that you can see for expense reporting. It's on iOS or Android. You can create templates if you're doing repeating expenses or even mileage. You could save a trip if you're running to the post office every week. You can kind of save those as templates inside the system. Here's a quick visualization of kind of what it looks like from the online tool. We can design what the user interface looks like. So what fields do we want to capture for the expense? Do we want to require receipts for every expense? We can get very customized on the user interface for the users. And then we also have flexibility to design out what the approval portal looks like. And so if I'm an expense approver, I can see, all the things that are waiting out here for approval. I can easily, like I mentioned before, I can forward them, I can reject them, or I can simply approve them. So that kind of wraps up the expense management tool. I am going to now jump over and talk a little bit about document capture. So this utilizes a OCR scanning. OCR stands for optical character recognition, and it's essentially reading a PDF, Excel, any type of file, and extracting the text from that file. And so what this allows you to do is, I'm just going to go ahead and jump to my next page. So incoming documents will either come in a paper form, which have to be scanned in so we have an electronic document, or they can come through emailed or e-invoices. Those will push into the Continia process. Their server will run through that OCR where it is, basically extracting all the text it can from that file. And then in the actual BC system, we train the system. So we build a template for each of our vendor invoices to tell the system, what data fields we want to extract and, where we can find those data fields on the vendor invoice. Approvals can also be done on the document capture side. So they can be done directly inside Business Central, leveraging the approval processes that BC has, or we can also do approvals through that web approval portal. It can handle invoices, credit memos, contracts, as well as different expenses. And then you've got a lot of the same approval options where if you want to approve, delegate, you can add comments and send them back to the user. So there's a lot of functionality there. Here's kind of a brief overview of, how to get documents into the document capture solution. So it does it by different categories. Each category is going to have its own URL. So if we are sending in, vendor related documents, maybe a W-9 or banking information, those can go to the vendor email address. And then obviously we've got invoices and credit memos that's used the most, and that would be how we route invoices into the OCR process. I do have some clients where if they've got like a AP invoices mailbox, we can actually set up some rules through Outlook that if something comes in there with an attachment, we can have it automatically forward into the Continia solution. Here's kind of a screenshot of what it looks like when you're building the vendor templates. So you can kind of see here, I've got an invoice from Staples, and it essentially uses these orange and blue boxes. So the orange box, I kind of relate this as an anchor point, and then the blue box is the data field that we want to extract. So we tell the system, hey, look for the text invoice number right below it. That's where you would find the invoice number. And so we build these templates, and then as long as the vendor doesn't change the formatting of their invoice, every invoice that comes in after that, it will capture all the fields that we've deemed necessary. And then once you process the invoice, you'll get actually a thumbnail preview of the PDF in your purchase invoice screen inside Business Central. And this really makes it easier on the approvers, so they don't have to, go download a PDF. They can see kind of side by side what the PDF was of the vendor, and then, how that was actually entered into the system. So that's an overview of both the Continia solutions. I think we're probably implementing these on, at least 50% of our projects right now. So if you have any interest in either of these Continia solutions or Business Central in general, feel free to reach out, and we'd be happy to work with you. I will go ahead and pass it over to Shay.
Thanks for that information, Jesse, and thank you to everyone, all of our presenters, for all of the great information you've shared. Really quick, I want to share some of our upcoming events with you. We have our Sherpa programs that you can check out, which you can find more information about at JourneyTEAM.com/Sherpa, because we have Business Central, Power BI, Dynamics 365 Sales and Marketing, as well as Power Apps and Viva. Coming soon, we're going to announce this very shortly, is our Business Technology Summit, and that's coming up here in fourth quarter. And so for that reason, we will not be having a Tech Insider update during fourth quarter because we'll be at Business Technology Summit. So our next Tech Insider update will be in February of 2024. So we hope to see you then. All right, now, as a quick reminder, as we're doing Q&A, please fill out this survey for a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card. We really appreciate your feedback, and we appreciate you spending your time with us today. And we'll go ahead and turn some time over to Q&A. I did see in the chat that Christopher wrote, previously when we tried the phishing simulation, the Chrome browser would block the link as a potential phish, so we weren't able to see who clicked. Do you know if this has been fixed between Google and Microsoft? Nate, I think you have the answer for that one.
I do. Thank you. So Google Chrome does block some of the simulated phishing URLs with a big red deceptive site ahead message. It does look like this is limited to Chrome and does not currently affect Microsoft Edge. My suggestion is that when you're building and planning these emails is to test the email in Chrome and Edge before sending. And if the URL is blocked by Chrome, Google does provide some instruction to allow access to the blocked URLs, and I'll post that and the Microsoft documentation regarding this issue below.
Awesome, thank you. And then I'll check a couple of the other questions we had. So one of the ones we've also gotten is, what's the difference between all the co-pilots and how do those licenses work? Because I know there's one in Microsoft 365. I know marketing has a co-pilot. There's co-pilot everywhere. So what are the differences between all of those?
There is none. They're all Copilot. I'm just kidding. From my perspective on the modern work side of the fence, right? Copilot for Office 365 is really looking inside your SharePoint content, your OneDrive content, your email, your calendar, your Teams messages, that ecosystem. Okay, and so it's going to help you see and find relative conversations that are going on, and in that source of content. Okay, the Copilot for Sales. And Brandon could probably talk more to this than I am, but Copilot for Sales is looking at a different set of data, if you will, and it's different use cases than when you're working on a Teams message and you're trying to come up with something from a content creation standpoint versus when you're in sales and you need AI. So it's kind of like, think of them as different use cases for AI, just like you've got AI that will generate photos versus AI that'll generate large language models to create sentences and stuff, right? So that's kind of my definition of how that is. And thankfully, Microsoft calls it all Copilot. That was a joke. Brandon, I don't know if you have anything more to add to that or any thoughts there.
Yeah, I think you were spot on. Is that Copilot's being used kind of in a generic way, but at least Microsoft's doing a pretty good job as far as doing Copilot in reference to whatever module or application it's specific towards. So there's like Copilot for sales, there's Copilot for marketing, there's Copilot for customer service, and even Copilot for Business Central, finance, supply chain. So they're good in that regard. It is kind of overarching, and the use cases are all very different, but a lot of them kind of focus on, besides some of the stuff in the cloud, where the use case is a little bit different. But for the business application side of things, Copilot is specific for AI generative content is the kind of big push that we're seeing right now. How does it help you generate email content? How does it help you generate marketing email content? That kind of stuff. And I know those two things, you're probably thinking those are the same, but they're different.
Yep. Great.
So from like a licensing perspective, so Microsoft 365 is its own license for Copilot, right? And then, at least in my experience, like with marketing, Copilot, that's part of Dynamics marketing, right? So is that how that works, kind of thing?
Correct. So with customer service and sales, Copilot, it is available in the enterprise level licenses for those two products. And the same could be said. Field service also is going to have its own kind of Copilot features. But for marketing, since you're not licensing the user for marketing, you're paying for the module. You're not paying for an additional license outside of the module itself to get access to the marketing Copilot feature sets, like the segment builder and then the email content generator.
Yes, and Shay, the licensing for Copilot for Microsoft 365 is an add-on. It's an additional thing. It's not included in the E5. The days when M365 E5 had everything in it, those are not fully true anymore. And so there's some net new SKUs coming up that aren't included in the E5, and they're add-on SKUs. Yep, and that's where Copilot sits today.
All right, makes sense. Yeah, I know I always get questions on like, how do I get Copilot? And it's like, well, for what? Is the next question. Okay. Next question that we had was, who has access to Fabric Preview? Is that a general availability, or what does that look like? And then maybe what licensing will be required to participate in Fabric?
because Fabric is in public preview, Microsoft has given everyone the opportunity to have a trial license or trial capacity for Fabric. So if you're already currently integrated with Power BI and that side of the reporting sphere, you can in the top right hand corner of the Power BI tenant, you can use a trial capacity. There's just a little button or icon there to try Fabric for 60 days for free. So yeah, everyone has access to it if you're currently using Power BI.
And we'll drop a link to the trial within the chat as well. So check it out.
Awesome. Great info. And then next one I think will be for Eric of what do we do if we know our SMTP relay and exchange online will be impacted? What are the next steps to do?
The short version is you've got to look at the sending mail of where that mail is coming from and potentially look at changing the domain name that you're using in that return path or the from field. Okay. And so reach out to me, eric.roff@journeyteam.com, if you want any more clarity of what that means. But yeah, Microsoft is making some changes there. And if you are in that boat where that return path header is different than your from field or sender ID or sender field, then you'll be affected. So the worst case scenario is you may have to talk to the sending application and make some changes there. That's worst case scenario.
All right, good information. As far as questions go, I believe that's all we've got, unless there's any last minute questions to put into the chat. But I'm going to go ahead and move forward. And I want to thank everyone for being here with us today. We greatly appreciate you. We look forward to talking to you more. And please let us know if there's any follow-up questions that you might have or information that you need. Thanks, everyone, and have an awesome day.